I'm slowly creeping up, closer and closer to that 30 rep range. Today, another AMRAP day. I tried to get as many repetitions as I could with 100 kilos in the first set, as you can see here. In the second, I got 26. The previous best was 25, and that was, I reckon, last week or something like that, maybe a little longer than that. Slowly getting there. But these days where you're pushing to failure are so freaking taxing, and you know, the whole conversation about do you train to failure or not, I'm a firm believer that you do not. Obviously it depends highly on what you do for the rest of your training, but this is very, very exhausting, and frankly it limits you everywhere else. Like I did these 3 sets. I did 26, 24 and 22, 3 sets. And then I went over to deadlifts. That felt very, very tough. Went to squats. That felt terrible as well. If somebody told me 6 months ago that you will get leg fatigue from benching, I would have laughed at them. Oh, goodness. But now I fully see that this is true. You know, the tension required for these bench press sets and for you to hold that tension for a long period of time, you know, for 26 freaking reps. I don't know what that is. Is that a minute worth of work, maybe 45 seconds or something like that? It's a long time to have a constant, you know, isometric contraction through the glutes, quads, you know, holding that tension, all of that tension in the lower body, then transferring it to the upper body, and then meanwhile, you're obviously not breathing easily because you're pumping away, and you've got this tension in your body. It's kind of like, you know, well, it is very similar to squats when you're doing AMRAP sets. You know, you're working and you're using a lot of energy there. A lot of oxygen is being used. Sure, you're going to get puffed out. But also drawing in the new breaths, the new air, is not easy. You're under tension. And so just the sheer, you know, effort of drawing in air is also very taxing. So it's kind of like, you know, one step forward, one step back when you're doing these AMRAP sets, because it's very hard to draw in breaths. And you know, ideally you would, you know, hold your breath for the duration of it, but obviously your blood pressure will go to 2,000 and you would quickly run out of energy, and you would, lactic acid would just take over very quickly. So you got to breathe, and it's very tough. And if you slow down the repetitions and you rest at the top, then you're really paying for it big time, because that is not a rest at the top, far from it. And so I like to do, you know, volume, lots of volume that is kind of like, well, now 6 reps away from my maximum, you know, so I'll be doing 20s tomorrow, and the 20s obviously is 6 reps shy, you know, which probably is a bit too much, to be honest with you, now that I think about it. Maybe I should be doing like 23s or 22s or something like that. I don't know, I'll think about it. I'm probably going to be very, very tired tomorrow after, you know, a day like this, so probably 20s tomorrow are going to be quite decent. Because tomorrow, if I try to do an AMRAP set, I'll probably get 23. So it kind of makes sense. You know, 3 in reserve is probably a good range to do your volume in. And so, you know, I'm a firm believer that the volume where you have reps in reserve is really the stuff that drives progress, because that type of effort or efforts are repeatable quite often. These things that I did today, that is not repeatable often at all. Like, I'm exhausted and I'm very, very taxed. And so the general, I guess, bro knowledge of the gym would be like, okay, that's me done for the week on the bench press. And to me, that is too bloody long in between sessions. You know, I've always kind of gravitated to high frequency. With squats, I've had my headaches, fair share of headaches. But with this stuff, with benching, nothing hurts, and I can absolutely throw myself into that brick wall of benching and nothing negative comes out of it. And so everything feels good, all the joints feel healthy, I feel strong, and so I can just continue to smash the volume. And so tomorrow I'll try and come in and do 5 sets of 20 if I can. I really believe that once you kind of get accustomed to that, let's say minimal, you know, daily minimum of 5 sets of whatever, once you kind of really master that resting training volume, if you want to, like that baseline of training, when you finally kind of adapt to that, then your ceiling kind of rises, you know. I believe that. Obviously, you standing up on a ladder and pushing that ceiling up by doing days like this where you're pushing AMRAPs, that also obviously is really good, but that is very costly and you can't really reproduce those efforts often. And so I always look at what can you reproduce? Well, what can you repeat often? And my 5 sets of 20, that, you know, daily stuff that I've been doing is really, really good. So you continue to do that. And surely but slowly, that starts to feel a little bit easier and easier. And so like the other day, I ended up doing 7 sets of 20 with 100 kilos. So, you know, maybe, I don't know, a month ago, I was doing 3 sets of 20. And so like, you know, you slowly creep up in the volume. And I'm a big believer of this. When you start to survive the volume and you start to kind of increase that volume over the space of weeks or months, then you know that you are getting stronger. That's like one of the best symptoms of progress, is that you are able to do more work in that kind of like 3, 4, maybe even 5 reps in reserve range, or even closer to that. I don't know. Everyone's different. But once you start to kind of get more and more accustomed to that volume, all of a sudden that ceiling starts to rise. And so, you know, it's a two-dimensional thing. You don't have to only push at the ceiling to get a taller room or a taller capacity for peaking strength. You can also improve your base. Get that pyramid wider, right? You know, get that base wider. And I really believe that, you know, non-to-failure sets are the best way to do it, because simply you can do more volume. You can do it more frequently. And so same with squats, same with deadlifts, same with everything. You know, if you're a squatty guy and you can survive a lot of volume with squats, do it, man. We all have our own little things that work for us. Some people have weird shoulder anatomy and benching absolutely kills them. Don't run through a wall. Do as much as you can there. And if you find a lift, let's say deadlifts or squats, whatever, man, just do something that you can do a lot of. And when you start to get fitness in that lift, you will start to see radiation of that work and that capacity bleed into other areas, you know. And so, you know, for me, I find it vastly less taxing to do deadlifts. And so my mind is like, well, do deadlifts then. There's a lot of carryover between deadlifts and squats. Like there's a lot of similar muscles. So why don't I do a lot of work with the deadlifts? They don't hurt. Nothing really hurts when I do that. So, and then that will transfer to squats. Squats are just weird for me, man. And I've obviously given 5+ years of squatting every day to try and work it out. It's just my anatomy doesn't agree with it the best. I'm not built for it. But benching, that's easy. Like I can just literally, as much as energy I carry in myself, I can, you know, put into the bench and nothing negative comes out of it. Deadlifts similar, although deadlifts are much heavier cost in terms of fatigue, just general fatigue, not pains, just fatigue. So got to be smart about it. And so for me, just try and ramp up that volume somehow. Bleed it into it slowly. For me, I put a rep in the last week on my AMRAP, and I'm happy with that. I'm heading in the right direction. So that's kind of cool. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.